Hey, I've mentioned that I've been reading Bart Ehrman's latest book, Jesus Interrupted, revealing the hidden contradictions in the Bible and why we don't know about them. It's an excellent book, perhaps his best. I'm enjoying and learning a lot from it. To the right of the screen, I've put some links to where one can pick it up, the book, that is, not that guy. It's also available as an audiobook on iTunes and Audible.com. In Chapter 3 of the book, Ehrman discusses a significant difference between the Apostle Paul as he is portrayed in the book of Acts and the way in which Paul expresses his own opinion in the first chapter of his letter to the Romans. Of course, there are a number of differences between the Paul portrayed in Acts and the Paul we meet in his own writings. Perhaps the most striking difference is the substantially variant descriptions of Paul's conversion to faith in Jesus. In Acts, it's a conversion attended by sound, light, and fury. While in the first chapter of Galatians, Paul describes his conversion in hushed terms. It's an internal revelation. As Paul puts it, God, quote, was pleased to reveal his Son in me. Ehrman highlights a difference between the Paul portrayed in Acts and the Paul we meet in his own writings, specifically Romans, that I've not noticed before. So the following is from Ehrman's book. We have seen that the book of Acts occasionally presents discrepancies not only with the Gospels, but also with the writings of the hero of its narratives, Paul. One particularly interesting instance occurs in one of the few instances in Acts in which Paul is said to deliver a message to a pagan audience, his sermon to the philosophers in Athens while standing on the Areopagus, Acts 17, 22 to 31. Paul begins this sermon by complimenting his hearers on their great religiosity. But he goes on to indicate that they have committed a great error in thinking that they could worship God by worshiping idols. For God, quote, does not live in shrines made by human hands. Instead, he is the Lord of the earth, the creator of all. But, quote, God has overlooked the times of human ignorance and now commands all people everywhere to repent. This is a key verse. According to Paul, the pagans have worshipped pagan gods out of ignorance. They simply didn't know any better. God has overlooked all that and given them a chance now to face the truth and to come to believe in him through Christ, who has been raised from the dead. What makes this point of view so interesting is that Paul himself speaks about pagan religions in one of his letters and makes it ever so plain that he does not at all think that pagans worship idols out of ignorance or that God has overlooked their actions in hopes that they will repent. In Romans 1, 18 to 32, Paul indicates quite the contrary, that the wrath of God is poured out upon pagans because they willfully and consciously rejected the knowledge of God that was innate within them. Quote, for what can be known about God is plain to them, because God has shown it to them. Romans 1:19. They have not pursued their religious fantasies out of ignorance, but in full knowledge of the truth. Quote, though they knew God, they did not honor him as God or give thanks to him, and they exchanged the glory of the immortal God for images resembling a mortal human being, or birds, or four-footed animals, or reptiles. Has God overlooked their sin? By no means. Quote, they are without excuse Romans 1:20. And God punishes them, not only in some undisclosed time in the future, but also in the present, by making them or allowing them to become increasingly corrupt, wicked, and immoral. And so we have two contrasting portrayals of Paul's view of the pagans and their worship of idols. Do they worship idols out of ignorance? The Paul of Acts says yes. Paul in his own writings says no. Does God overlook what they've done? Acts says yes. Paul says no. It appears that the Paul of Acts is not the same as the real Paul, at least not when it comes to this very fundamental issue of divine reaction to pagan idolatry. Here endeth the lesson. As I noted at the top of the video, the Paul of Acts, and as Ehrman puts it, the real Paul, are different in a number of significant ways. All right, before I go, I'd like to take a moment to recommend two video series that I think are outstanding. Many of you have probably seen both, but for those who haven't, they're well worth your time to check out. One is from the great ToddAllenGates, entitled The Problem of Suffering. It's in 3 parts and is part of an exchange Todd has been having with a Christian. Among the many things Todd does so well in this series is he distinguishes between the problem of evil and the problem of suffering, arguing, quite correctly I think, that the problem of suffering is far more challenging than the problem of evil, and he masterfully outlines the challenges. Well worth watching. There's a link to the first part of the series to the right of the screen. The other is by a YouTuber who is new to me. I came to know him through ToddAllenGates. Thanks, Todd, for mentioning him. The YouTuber calls himself Evidence, and the series is entitled Deconversion. To date, he has 2 parts of the series done. Apparently there are more to come. I look forward to that. In the first part, 2.0 Deconversion, the God Concept, Evidence, who is a former Pentecostal Christian, does an exceptional job of describing how the God concept can have the appearance of being a single belief, but it's really a group of multiple intertwined sub-beliefs. And the resilience of the God concept is the product of this web of intertwined multiple beliefs. In the second part of the series, 2.1 Deconversion, Prayer, Evidence discusses how, as a believer, his views about prayer changed over time and the effect this had on his broader conception of God. These are fascinating and very well produced videos that I recommend to your attention. Again, links to the right of the screen. I eagerly look forward to the rest of the series. So that's it. Thanks, everyone.